Good evening. You'll get your songbook out and turn to number 689. We'll start with that song. Let's sing. Be still, my soul, the Lord is on thy side. Bear patiently the cross of grief or pain. Leave to thy God to order and provide. In every change, he faithful will remain. Be still, my soul, thy best thy heavenly friend. Through thorny ways leads to a joyful end. Be still, my soul, thy God doth undertake to guide the future as he has the past. Thy hope, thy confidence, let nothing shake. All now mysterious shall be bright at last. Be still, my soul, the waves and winds still know his voice who ruled them while he dwelt below. Be still, my soul, the hour is hastening on, when we shall be forever with the Lord. When disappointment, grief, and fear are gone, sorrow forgot, love's purest joys restored. Be still, my soul, when change and tears are past. All safe and blessed we shall meet at last. You got it turned on. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be here with everyone. I would encourage you to pray tonight. Dwight and Josephine are meeting with the consulate in Nashville tomorrow, trying to get everything worked out for their upcoming trip. So keep them in your prayers. Hopefully everything will work out with that, but then in addition to that, just that things will still, everything will be smooth coming up to their trip into Japan that they're planning. So be in prayer for them. Tonight I've got Sheila with us. Really excited to be interviewing her. Thank you for being willing to do it. It's missed being with y'all last week. I missed hearing Jim and Roxanne. I watched the video and enjoyed listening to that. Thanks, Dana, for stepping in and doing that. And I really appreciate everyone who's been willing to get up here. It's not easy to get up here and be vulnerable and share. But I've been very grateful for everybody who's done it, and I know that the congregation has been blessed, and many that have been watching and the videos that have been shared have been blessed as well, and I know they'll be blessed tonight, Sheila, so thank you for doing that. So tell us where you are originally from.
I was born in Searcy, Arkansas.
Jack will fix it. He'll
Okay.
turn it down some.
My father was a non-traditional student, so I was born there, but we left when I was about 2 years old. And after that, lived in Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, and then California before I went to college. And, my family's from South Central Missouri, so that's always been home.
Okay. So tell us about your family and who and what they were like.
Again, South Central Missouri, my parents both grew up there on farms, rural area, met each other. They grew up 30 miles apart, but met when they went 100 miles away to college. And I'm very blessed that the three grandparents that I grew up knowing were all people of faith. They were all people of great curiosity who loved to read. None of my grandparents made it past 8th grade, but they didn't let that stand in their way, and that has carried on through the generations. I'm the oldest in my family. I have one sister who's 2 years younger. Like I said, we moved around quite a bit growing up. My dad was a preacher, and that's all I knew, moving around some, but always going back to Missouri. So we had a home base, kind of, and I enjoyed seeing different places and meeting different people. I've always enjoyed experiencing new places. So I think that started when I was a kid.
So how long did you spend in each place that you...
It varied from 2 years to, 5 years in Illinois. I was in California then 11 years, high school, college, and a couple of years after college.
So being a preacher's kid, what was that like?
I thought of that when I came in and saw your boys playing in the auditorium.
If you ever have an issue with that, just let me know. I know a guy that can take care of that.
I remember in Illinois, we lived in a house that the church owned that backed up to the church building, and my school was just across the street. So in the afternoons after school, or in the summer, I would go find Dad in the church building when it was quiet and cool, and it was all mine. I would run up and down the aisles.
I know my boys might consider this a second home at some point.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that. So what are some of your favorite memories from growing up?
Most of my favorite memories center around my grandparents. No matter where we lived, my parents made it a priority that my sister and I, at least, would get back to see them at least once a year, whether my parents did or not. And I'm so grateful to have some experience of the farm. I didn't grow up on a farm, obviously, but to see a little bit of that way of life and see where food comes up close and personal, and have the freedom of wandering pretty much the whole day if I wanted to. I didn't realize it at the time, of course, but that was a pretty rare thing.
Yeah. So was it just like a animal farm, or did they plant crops too, or
Some of both.
some of both? Yeah, that's one of the things that I found most interesting. Is I was reading one day on just Facebook, and it said, "Ask your kid where food comes from, and see what they say." And I did, and they said the grocery store. I was like, "Oh man!" So yeah, I mean, it's fun to see. Like, although I've also heard you don't want to ask how it's made either. So There may be some of that. Anything stand out from, any poignant memory that stands out to you from the farm?
Not poignant maybe, but one of my earliest memories of the farm is watching my grandfather butcher a hog.
Yep.
I don't remember any blood, but I remember them shaving it and pouring all the other stuff.
All the other stuff. All I know is I like bacon, so I'm thankful for that. That's cool. Those moments with grandparents are special, and then even the farm and different way of life just kind of sears it in even more. So what's your first memory of learning about God and going to church? I know you're a preacher's kid, but
Yeah.
may have just always been, but
I really can't identify a first memory. It was just always part of my life, church, and believing, knowing that God was there and that He cared about us and that He had expectations, but that He was my Heavenly Father.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, move into some of the favorites here. What's your favorite passage of Scripture and why?
For a long time, John 16:33 has been a favorite. In this world you have trouble, but take heart, for I've overcome the world. And Jesus saying that. That's always a comfort. In the last few months, my Sunday school class, and I have memorized a couple verses from 2 Corinthians, one of which was, but we have these treasures in jars of clay, so that to show that the all-surpassing power comes from God and not from us. And that's really become a favorite of mine because of the contrast between the jar of clay and the all-surpassing power, and knowing that the responsibility is not ours, but God has favored us enough that He is placing that power in us.
Yeah, I'm glad you're calling your kids to memorize. I remember in 9th grade, my Bible teacher, Tim Vick, he's not listening to this, and no reason to, but if he does, it's Tim Vick. He made us memorize Philippians 2:1-11. And although I can't quote it word for word right now, if it took a minute, it's become one of those passages that just has soaked in. It is just stuck. And so, it's amazing what memorizing Scripture, little pieces can do, because it may not be right now, but eventually, they may feel like a jar of clay. It may feel like I could break really easily, but knowing what's inside is powerful. So I'm glad you shared that, and hope that it not only helps you, but will help them in the future as well. So favorite character in the Bible and why? And Jesus is the acceptable answer too.
Okay, well, Jesus. Then that was one of the questions you gave us ahead of time, and I've thought a lot about it. I really have trouble answering that. There's so many that I want to know more about. I'm fascinated that Mark, the writer of the gospel, thought it important to note that they sat down on the green grass.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was the way his mind worked, that he noticed that.
Well, not even that one. The one that sticks out to me from Mark is when all of the gospel writers talk about the storm on the sea, but Mark's the only one that says he fell asleep on a cushion. And so even like the little detail like that.
Yeah.
So I love, Mark is one of those cool, because not only is he a writer, but he's a character too. And so even with kind of a redemptive story. So I like that one. Now I know, was that your favorite song that we sung? Okay.
Yeah, Be Still My Soul. There are a lot of songs I love, and Randy led it Sunday, and it reminded me, oh yeah, I really love that song.
He probably led it better.
You did a great job.
Well, thanks. She didn't answer definitively, which probably means yes. But we'll keep going with that. So what about that song do you really enjoy?
We sing a lot of happy songs, and that's wonderful because God has blessed us so much. That is among the smaller subset of songs that is a good reminder that no matter what happens, God is good, God is with us, He's dependable. And like in John 16:33, we're going to have trouble, but Jesus has overcome the world, and He's with us.
I like the happy songs too, but it's almost like this one's more of a reminder in a difficult moment when the soul isn't very quiet and you need to quiet it down. So it's a good one. Now I asked you this specifically. You said that your grandparents, parents passed on a love of reading, and so I wanted to know what your favorite book was, just in general.
That's hard. Can I say a favorite author?
Author.
Okay. C.S. Lewis is
Okay.
my favorite. He has such a breadth of work, from fiction to nonfiction, scholarly, popular theology, a little bit of everything, poetry. And he has such a talent and a developed skill in writing well, and not just clearly, but beautifully.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
Is there what was the first book you read by C.S. Lewis? Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, the Chronicles of Narnia.
Okay.
They were the set was present from my parents on my 11th birthday, and I pretty much ignored the party after I got them and just sat and read.
I have a cup that basically it says I'm introverted, but I love to read. So if you want to talk about books, I'll be extroverted. And so yeah, I get that urge there. C.S. Lewis is just a profound author. Is there any? I mean, I remember the Chronicles of Narnia, and because it was probably about 11 or 12 in chapel. I went to a Christian school, and I remember the guy he read to us the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and that was my first introduction. I just remember, like you said, it's profound that he can write such deep theology, but also capture the mind and imagination of a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And so that's a very proficient skill. And so yeah, that's a good one to have. If you had to compare yourself to somebody in the Bible, who would it be?
That is one that I just totally left blank.
Totally left blank. I tend to say Peter because I talk sometimes before I think. And so that would be my answer. When you think about your relationship with God, what are some things that make you feel close to God just in your life, in your walk, just different things? What's something that makes you feel close to God?
On an immediate basis, a flash of that sense of closeness, it would have to be writing that is especially well done, like C.S. Lewis, or a glimpse of beauty in the natural world. There's something thrilling about seeing seedlings come up. There's nothing there yesterday, and there's green leaves today, and that is such an awesome picture of God's creativity and power to me.
Is there any others? I mean, the seedlings is a powerful one because, like you said, it's like one day there's nothing there, and then the next day there is. Is there any other moments in nature that make you think about that?
Oh, there's so many. It's hard to choose, honestly. I don't have it any longer, but I had a ornamental cherry tree in my yard for a long time, and every spring when it would be in full bloom and the sunlight would be full on it. That it was just a tiny, I felt like it was a tiny glimpse of what Moses may have felt with the burning bush. It was just so incredible to see.
Did you ever take your shoes off?
Not deliberately, probably.
But yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's almost like it just seems like it's on fire, and it's just beautiful. I appreciate that. Is there any recent things you've read that have made you feel that?
Not off the top of my head,
Not off the top of your
not that I can think of.
Okay. You mentioned "Be Still My Soul," and several of the verses that you're talking about is helping overcome the fact that we're in a battle and we're going to go through difficulties. How has your faith helped you get through life in general, but then also specific difficult moments as well?
I don't know how people without faith, without knowing God's grace, without having a church family, get through life, honestly. I know for me, there's been kind of this cycle of pride and wanting to do it myself and thinking I can do it myself and perfectionism, and then when I inevitably fail, the anxiety and then the depression. And hanging on to God is the only thing that kept me going a lot of times. Knowing that no matter what, He was there, and that this wasn't the end of my story.
Yeah. In those moments where you were kind of in that cycle, and I would share some similarities there. What would encourage you? Would it just be family? Would it be friends? Would it be what was something that would help, I guess, get you over that hump?
Family, definitely, and the dependability of having a family, a church family to come to. I don't know that a lot of times it was just hanging on until things got better. I don't know.
Yeah. Think about this question. How have you seen the promises of God come true in your life?
Mostly looking back, it's so hard to see them at the time, but looking back at the hardest times, they've always led to growth and improvement, and not ease, but to better understanding and it's a 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing, but there is progress, and that progress has always gone faster when I've depended on God and not myself.
Okay.
And I can see that more looking back.
When you say looking back, is it just like a general looking back, or do you actually I know some people journal and stuff like that. Do you track it that way, or do you just kind of just glance back in general?
Mostly looking back in general. I've tried to journal and haven't kept up with it, but I can look back and see specific instances of this where I've been at extreme low points, and many times that has been the push that I've needed to make a needed change that has brought about growth or positive change in my life.
Yeah. When you look back and see those, does it change how you view even like current things that you're going through?
Oh, definitely. And it's a reminder, another verse that I think of often is 2 Corinthians 5:7 about walking by faith and not by sight. And so often, I'm just straining to see. I want to see what the next step is, if not the next mile down the road. But it's a whole lot more dependable to trust in God, and it's a whole lot less anxious and a whole lot better if I trust Him and not myself.
Yeah. It's always tough to think, because we like to see. We like to know. Even just going back to one of the earliest lessons we learn is you don't cross the road without looking both ways. But unfortunately, life sometimes isn't that precise. And so, walking this journey of faith is a call to deep trust. And I appreciate you say just looking back and seeing, and it's a reminder that God is still with us, and He's still preserving us in those moments, which then calls us into even deeper trust as well. When you look back on your life, what are some things, 2 or 3 things that have contributed the most to you growing in your faith?
One of the low points that I mentioned, after I graduated from college, I didn't know exactly what to do with an English degree, so I ended up teaching middle school. And this was in the same school district where I'd gone to high school, so it was close to my parents, and there was comfort in that, but it was not a good situation. It was just for a couple of years, but I just had great difficulties with it and was horribly miserable. But that gave me the kick that I needed to go to graduate school and leave home,
Yeah.
which were both good instances of growth for me. And I don't know how long it would have taken me to get to that point if I hadn't been so low, and the only thing that was keeping me going was God.
Yeah. And so it gave you the push you needed to get going, allowed you to deepen your trust. How else did it help, I guess? And I've asked that wrong. Is there anything else that's like helped grow your faith? Other practices or experiences like that?
I'm sorry, I'm going blank.
That's all right.
I'm not sure.
This is still my favorite question. If you could give advice to the teenage version of yourself about faith, what would you say?
Don't depend so much on yourself. Place your hope in God's grace and not your own obedience. Obedience is important, but that's not where your salvation comes from.
Right. I feel like we heard that somewhere recently. Anybody else know? I feel like I should write that down. That's. I remember. Actually, it was the same class with Tim Vick's going to come to mind a lot. We were supposed to read in that class the book In the Grip of Grace by Max Lucado. And that was the first time that I remember really having even the smallest grasp of grace. Because I'm that way. I feel like I want to trust myself. I want to work hard, and I want to do it right. And there's the hard part is when you can do it right a lot, you learn some bad habits, and it's hard to be broken of that. And so that's an important lesson to learn. Thanks for sharing that. So you are now at Harding School of Theology. How long have you been over?
Almost 22 years.
And tell us all that you do over there.
I am primarily the cataloger, which means I don't usually create, but I edit and enrich the records for the books we own that go in the catalog. I assign the call numbers so that they're arranged in subject order. I also handle the databases that we subscribe to and act as kind of a liaison between the database companies and our students and the library systems and IT people in Searcy. So I have a lot to do with computers. And then as needed, I answer reference questions and directional questions and check books out.
She's very helpful to me, so.
Whatever needs to be done.
What do you enjoy most about what you do?
I love seeing all the books come in and having, being able to read about new books and being able to recommend those. It's enjoyable. It's always been enjoyable to help someone with research and to show them a tool or a database or a way of searching for information and see that light bulb go on over their head and see that understanding.
And so you work in a library, and it's a religious library, but how does faith connect to what you do in your work there?
It's a Christian institution. People I work with are Christians. They're wonderful people. The students are Christians, but we're all human. And so faith guides our interactions with each other and what we expect of each other and how we serve each other. And when we have a student who thinks we should do his research for him, or Tina knows who I'm talking about, or a community member who is a little bit demanding, faith reminds me that this is a ministry too, and this is these are my brothers and sisters and God's beloved children that I'm working with.
Yeah, and even like what you said about before, just you get to be a resource, not just in a way that you get to connect people to that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I appreciate about the work that y'all do is there's countless resources that come across y'all's desk, and there's been times where whether it's Tina, whether it's you, different people throughout the years, it's like, have you read this? I haven't. And so then those insights get shared. And so in a small way, well, in a large way, I feel like you even contribute to our sermons, because at least my sermons, because you're giving me recommendations. And so I appreciate the work that you do. And I'm sure that happens more than for just me too.
That's kind of our goal. We want to be part not only of preparing students to go into ministry or to grow in ministry, but we tell all our graduates that they have lifetime borrowing privileges, and we want to be there for them and continue to help them in their ministry. And in that sense, we're kind of a para-ministry organization, but we want to be a support in whatever way we can.
And I didn't ask this question, but it just jumped into my mind. If somebody from church wanted to use it, how would somebody just come in and use the library?
Anyone can come in and use library materials in the building, and anyone from Park is welcome to come in and get a community borrower's card. We have some limitations, but I know where to find all of you, you know. So, yeah, you're welcome to come in, use the books, use the databases, all of that.
And there's a lot there. We are very blessed. I know as ministers and being an alumni, it's one thing to know about it, but it's a valuable resource to have anything there that you can read, copy, and those kinds of things. So I just wanted to make people aware of that. So thanks for sharing that. Go ahead.
I can say this, Dwight's not here tonight, but I always send him at least 1 or 2 articles whenever he's in Japan. There's always something that comes up. So we do a lot of scanning and emailing materials to people who aren't local too.
Yeah. What do you enjoy most about being here at Park Avenue?
I love this group. When I first came 22 years ago and I was visiting around different congregations, Memphis has such a wealth of congregations, but I knew that that I would get lost in a large congregation, not because of any lack on their part, but because of my own personality. So that was one positive about Park. And then when I visited here, and so many people have said this, but the friendliness, the range of ages, and the way people work together and aren't stuck in little groups of like and like, the outward focus, the desire to work in the neighborhood and across the world, all of that impressed me and has continued to impress me over the years that I've been here.
So you said 21 years?
It'll be 22 in August.
22 in August.
Since I've been in Memphis, I think I started coming here in October, November.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still in shock. I'll begin 8 years here this August. So
It goes fast.
It goes very fast. When you think about your faith, what are some 3 to 5 important truths about God that have been essential to you throughout your life?
The first 2 that come to mind are something that I have tried to impress on the kids in whatever Bible classes that I've taught, and because it's been so important to me. One is that God is always with you, and 2, God always loves you. He may not like what you're doing with your life, but he always loves you. And that's, those 2 ideas are something that I've always gone back to again and again and again, because God is dependable.
Yeah.
That in a world that isn't, God is dependable. Sorry, is this about God or about faith? I've forgotten.
Either.
Either. Okay. About faith, then, one thing that has been important that I've had to go back to again and again is that as a human being, I am limited. I'm never going to understand fully as long as I am alive physically. That means that I need to continue growing. I need to hold what I believe I know lightly. Anything beyond the bedrock, I need to hold it lightly because I'm going to be wrong sometimes, and I have been, and I will be again. And if I don't hold that lightly, at some point, when it is proven to be false, if I've taken that as my foundation, then I'm going to be devastated. My faith is going to be devastated. And in addition, if I have made something my foundation that later turns out to be false, that means that I have misled other people and judged other people probably. And I need to, this ties into grace for other people, grace for myself. I don't have it all figured out. And I have to depend on the fact that God is good, and I have to depend on that even when I don't understand what else is going on.
Yeah. It's coming back to the lesson that Dana preached Sunday. It's hard. It's a struggle because on the one hand, Paul was preaching something that it seemed easy for people to make the assumption that he just didn't care about obedience, and be accused of not upholding the law. You don't care about this. He's like, no, clearly the law is good. It's from God. It's good, but I got to trust His grace here and His mercy, and none of us can do it. And it's hard to come back. We haven't gotten there yet, but it's hard to come back to there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. But that's at the core of it. And so, yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, because those are tough lessons to learn and then tough to continue to hold on to.
Yeah, it's not a one-time learned and that's the end of it thing ever. It has to be, I have to remind myself over and over, and God is gracious enough to remind me.
And I'm thankful He's in the business of reminding. And
Yeah.
It's like we get a weekly reminder here. This is what this is about. Who is someone who's been a mentor to you, and what they do to help you grow?
My parents, first of all, they, as a family, they made it a priority that we spent time together reading and praying and discussing things from the Bible, things about God, both in a scheduled sort of way and also informally. And they made it normal to talk about and think about those things. And I'm grateful for the habits that established. I had so many people who've influenced me in every congregation that I've been a part of and every school that I've been a part of. I have been a student or an employee at 3 of our Christian colleges. And there have been faculty and staff members at each one that have been such examples to me of love and kindness and patience, that when I needed those reminders that we talked about, they were there, and just by the example of their lives, or more overtly by the way they took me in and made me part of their families, they brought the love of God to life.
And it seems like you've carried some of those on and passed them on to
Hopefully.
students that you teach.
I hope so.
And that's the powerful thing, is what we learn from others and then passing it on to others as well. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with us? Any other thoughts? Very general question.
I can't think of anything other than I'm so grateful for you all, and I love you all.
Well, we love
Thank
you too,
you.
and we're glad that you're here.
Thank you.
You're an important part of being here, and appreciate all you've done. I know when I first came, I know before that you had been involved with like movie nights here and just helping out with teaching classes and those kinds of things. Appreciate you teaching my boys along the way. Thankful for that. Well, tonight we're going to close with a prayer. Is there anything that we can be praying about for you?
Peace of mind. There's so much going on right now, and there always is, but things seem so fractured right now. And pray for my parents as they get older and frailer. Their world is closing in, and so just pray for them, please.
All right. Well, if everyone will come down here and gather around, and we will close with a prayer tonight.